There's nothing quite like the image of a lone gunslinger facing off under the blazing sun. A silent stare, a twitch of the fingers, and a swift duel to decide the victor. Hollywood may have romanticized the Old West, but behind the myths and movies, these men and women lived by the gun in a land where law was often what you made of it. Today, we'll explore the stories of the Old West's deadliest gunslingers, some who fought for justice and others who reigned with terror. Make sure to stick around to discover the most feared gunslingers in American history. There's an air of danger in the dusty towns and lawless deserts of the Old West. Here, legends were made in the glare of high noon and in the silence of shadowy saloons. From fearless lawmen to ruthless outlaws, these gunslingers left marks on history that still echo today. But what truly drove these men and women to wield their guns? Join us as we uncover the blood-soaked legacies of the Old West's deadliest gunslingers. Let's start off with James Butler Hickok, known to history as Wild Bill, was the quintessential gunslinger, an expert shot, a gambler, a showman, and a lawman. Born in Illinois, Wild Bill's legend grew quickly in the West. In 1865, a dispute with David Tutt led to one of the few recorded duels of the time. Hickok killed Tutt with a single shot at 75 yards, establishing a deadly reputation. Years later, in Deadwood, South Dakota, Hickok's luck would run out. Shot in the back during a poker game, he died holding what is now known as the dead man's hand. Wild Bill's legend was cemented by his skills, his daring, and ultimately his tragic end. James Butler Hickok's life was steeped in risk, fame, and ultimately tragedy. From his early days as a sharpshooter, Wild Bill's reputation grew fast and fierce. But he wasn't always the hardened figure we imagine. As a young man, he joined the Pony Express, delivering mail across rugged terrain filled with danger at every turn. His experience shaped him into a gunslinger, known for his precision and calm under pressure. Hickok's duel with David Tutt was perhaps one of the rare times he faced a fair fight. One shot, one kill from 75 yards. His fame only grew, drawing admiration and envy alike. Yet, for all his skill, his death would come in an unexpected way. Shot in the back while holding the so-called dead man's hand, Wild Bill's life became as legendary as any Western tale. Some men are drawn to violence like a moth to a flame. John Wesley Harden was one such man. Born in Texas, Harden's bloody path began at the young age of 15, with a shooting that forced him into hiding. He killed Union soldiers, outlaws, and even lawmen, anyone who got in his way. Harden's reputation spread as he roamed the West, leaving a trail of bodies behind him. It was said he once shot a man for snoring too loudly. Captured by the Texas Rangers after years of evading justice, he served 17 years before being released, only to be killed in an ambush later. To this day, Harden remains a figure who blurred the line between law and lawlessness. John Wesley Harden was notorious for his explosive temper and his early turn to violence. But his story was deeply rooted in the tumult of post-Civil War Texas, a land where law and justice often fell by the wayside. At just 15, Harden killed a man for the first time, and by his late teens, he had killed multiple Union soldiers who had come looking for him. His life was marked by intense violence, and some would say an almost cursed path. Harden's life on the run became legendary, a tale of deadly encounters, narrow escapes, and relentless lawmen. His reputation only grew as he went from town to town, leaving bodies behind him. Yet his time in prison seemed to transform him. Studying law and religion, Harden tried to reform, but even freedom could not erase his violent past. In a cruel twist, he was killed in an ambush, his life ending just as brutally as it had been lived. Not every gunslinger was driven by vengeance or rebellion. John King Fischer, who grew up in the rugged lands of Texas, was drawn to a life of crime early on. Leading a gang that preyed on Mexican ranchers, Fischer's temper was matched only by his skill with a gun. But Fischer's life, like so many others, ended in a hail of bullets. In 1884, while attending the theater with his friend Ben Thompson, both were ambushed and killed. Fischer's remains lie in Texas. His legacy buried with him, but his story never forgotten. John King Fischer was born into a world of harsh justice, one where you either survived or perished. As a young man, he turned to crime, joining a gang that raided Mexican ranchers. Fischer's life became one of both brutality and strange honor, where he commanded respect and fear in equal measure. Fischer's role as a leader after he killed members of his own gang left a profound mark on his legend. He wasn't simply a ruthless killer, he enforced his own code, it's one that didn't spare even his closest allies if they crossed him. His death in a hail of bullets during an ambush adds a grim note to his story. Even in death, Fischer's life resonates as a tale of loyalty, betrayal, and blood. Few men walked the line between hero and villain like Tom Horn. A scout, a bounty hunter, and a hired gun, Horn served with the U.S. cavalry during the Apache Wars, tracking and capturing the legendary Geronimo. But his taste for blood would later lead him down darker paths. In Wyoming, Horn's life took a tragic turn when he was convicted of murdering a young boy in a bitter feud. Though some argue his innocence, Horn was hanged in 1903, his name forever associated with the deadly art of tracking and killing in the Old West. Tom Horn was as skilled as he was dangerous. Trained as a scout and interpreter during the Apache Wars, Horn's talents went far beyond mere gunplay. Known for tracking Geronimo, he became invaluable to the U.S. cavalry. But his life as a hired gun cast a dark shadow over his legacy. Hired by ranchers to intimidate and kill those who opposed them, Horn walked a fine line between law and lawlessness. Yet, for all his expertise, it was the questionable conviction for a young boy's murder that sealed his fate. Whether guilty or innocent, Horn's life ended at the gallows, forever casting doubt on his intentions and actions. He remains one of the Old West's most tragic and controversial figures. One of the most notorious figures of his time, Jim "Killer" Miller, was an outlaw with a frightening reputation. Rumored to have killed at least 14 men and likely many more, Miller wasn't just a gunman, he was an assassin. Cold and calculated, Miller would kill anyone for the right price. After the murder of a prominent figure, Miller's luck finally ran out. In 1909, a mob broke into his cell, dragging him to the gallows where he was lynched. For many, his death marked the end of one of the darkest legacies in the Old West. Jim Miller, known as Killer, earned his name for a reason. Cold and calculating, Miller was feared across the West for his willingness to kill anyone for a price. But Miller wasn't simply a hired gun. He was a man who reveled in his work, often rumored to perform dark rituals before each assassination. What's chilling about Miller is the sheer joy he took in his bloody work. He wore a coat lined with metal, believing it made him invincible. His death at the hands of a mob showed that even the most feared man has a breaking point. But Miller's willingness to kill for money remains one of the darkest tales in Old West history. Not every gunslinger began with a life of violence. Sam Bass started as an honest man with dreams of becoming a cowboy, but after a series of failed ventures, he turned to crime. Bass and his gang pulled off one of the largest train robberies in Union Pacific history, netting $60,000 in gold. But Bass's outlaw career would be short-lived. Ambushed by Texas Rangers, he died from gunshot wounds, a reminder that fortune often comes at a high price in the ruthless frontier. Sam Bass wasn't a hardened criminal from the start. Originally a hopeful young man, Bass dreamed of making a simple living as a cowboy, but his failures pushed him into a life of crime. When he and his gang struck gold, literally, they became marked men. Bass's Union Pacific train robbery brought him fame and wealth, but it also attracted the attention of the Texas Rangers. The relentless chase that ensued shows how dangerous it was to cross the law in the Old West. In a final showdown, Bass was shot and fled, but death caught up with him soon after. His story is one of ambition, risk, and the high cost of crime. Some men, like Dallas Stoudenmire, wielded their guns for the law. As a sheriff in El Paso, Texas, Stoudenmire was known for his quick temper and quicker draw. In one famous event, known as the 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight, Stoudenmire brought swift justice, killing 3 men in a matter of moments. But lawmen with reputations like Stoudenmire's often had enemies. Eventually, he was ambushed and killed, marking the end of a short but fierce career defending justice in the Wild West. Dallas Stoudenmire was a lawman like no other. Known for his hot temper, he ruled El Paso with an iron fist. The infamous 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight cemented his reputation as a fierce enforcer of justice. But Stoudenmire's battles weren't just against outlaws. They were often against the very system he sought to uphold. As tensions rose in El Paso, Stoudenmire became embroiled in a feud with the powerful Manning family. His untimely death in a surprise attack marked the end of one of the fiercest lawmen in Texas. Stoudenmire's life is a testament to the fine line lawmen walked between order and chaos. Clay Allison wasn't just a gunslinger, he was a legend of sheer unpredictability. Known for his violent temper, Allison once decapitated an enemy and displayed the head in a saloon. A Confederate veteran, Allison roamed the West, feared for his impulsive and brutal methods. Allison's violent life ended not in a gunfight, but in an accident when he fell from a wagon and broke his neck. Even in death, his story remains a testament to the wild and dangerous life of a true gunslinger. Clay Allison was an outlaw who personified unpredictability. His violent nature and dark sense of humor set him apart from other gunslingers. Stories of his actions, like decapitating an enemy and bringing the head into a saloon, have become part of his dark legend. Allison was unpredictable, and his death was just as sudden as his life. Though he died in an accident, his legacy lives on as one of the most feared and erratic figures in Western lore. Allison's story is one of rage, bravado, and the ever-present danger that came with being an outlaw. Few figures in Western history are as iconic as Wyatt Earp. From Dodge City to Tombstone, Earp's reputation as a lawman was matched only by his legendary showdown at the OK Corral, where he and his brothers faced down the Clanton-McLaury gang. Earp's story didn't end there. He lived to a ripe old age, later advising Hollywood on Western films. Earp represents a complex blend of hero and outlaw, a man who survived the Wild West and helped shape its enduring legend. Before we continue, would you take a moment and subscribe to our channel? Don't forget to like, share, for more journeys into history's most mysterious corners. Doing so helps our channel grow. Wyatt Earp's name rings out as one of the most famous lawmen of the Old West, but his life was far from straightforward. Though known for his role in the OK Corral gunfight, Earp's journey was shaped by hardship and loyalty. He moved west to make a life, but instead, he found violence. After the murder of his brother, Earp embarked on a crusade for revenge. He hunted down those responsible, cementing his reputation as a relentless force for justice. Wyatt Earp's story isn't just one of law, it's one of brotherhood, loyalty, and a fight for survival in the harshest conditions. The Old West may have faded into history, but the stories of these gunslingers live on. Each one, whether hero or outlaw, left a mark that transformed the West into a land of legend and lore. As we remember their names, we're reminded of a time when survival meant living and dying by the gun. Thank you for joining us in uncovering the truth behind the Old West's deadliest gunslingers. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into history's most mysterious corners. Until next time, keep the legends alive.